Continuing now on Newsmax Prime, you may have heard Donald Trump sniffling during Monday night's debate. And it turns out former Democrat National Committee Chair Howard Dean thinks he may know why. Our Bill Tucker has the story.
Remember this guy? The former senator from Vermont wants the press to investigate Donald Trump for cocaine use. He says Trump sniffles.
Perhaps we'll be talking about that later.
Might be indicative of cocaine problem. That tweet was from Monday night. Life must be awfully boring in Vermont, aka the heroin capital of America. Or maybe, just maybe, Dean misses the spotlight. So what better target than Trump, who doesn't smoke or drink, but might have a cocaine abuse problem?
Do I think he has a cocaine habit? I think it's unlikely that you could mount a presidential campaign at 70 years old with a cocaine habit, but it was pretty striking.
As long as we're looking at habits during this debate, what the heck was all this blinking by Hillary Clinton about? According to the American Academy of Ophthalmology, such a condition could be symptomatic of certain psychiatric disorders. Just imagine if a Republican operative tweeted that. Bill Tucker, Newsmax, New York.
Thanks very much, Bill. Let's discuss this at length. And to do so, we're pleased to be joined by former Libertarian vice presidential nominee Wayne Allyn Root. The 2008 Libertarian Veet nominee is a radio host and political commentator today, and he Skypes in from Las Vegas. He's also the author of the book, Angry White Male: How the Donald Trump Phenomenon is Changing America and What We Can All Do to Save the Middle Class. Now, joining us via Skype from St. Petersburg, Florida, is a man with a differing opinion, Democratic strategist Franco Ripple. Franco is the vice president at KateCom Public Relations. We appreciate you both taking time here on Newsmax Prime. So, Wayne, you lead off. Donald Trump using cocaine and Howard Dean's tweet. What on earth prompted that?
You know, first of all, Donald and I have a lot in common. I'm friends with Donald, and I've met him quite a few times. I opened for him in Vegas. One of my best friends is one of his best friends in the world, and we have a lot in common. Neither one of us has ever drank. In my whole life, I've never drank, never smoked, and I've never done a drug. Donald's never drank, never smoked, never done a drug. We're guys who like to be in control. That could be why we're successful businessmen, and we've both been successful at politics. Donald has no cocaine problem. Donald's only problem is he doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, and he's never done a drug. So he's a pretty serious dude. Donald's a great guy. It's a ridiculous assertion. And most importantly, isn't it interesting? Every time a conservative ever asks a question about President Obama, they are A, called a birther, and B, called a racist. But Democrats make up all kinds of lies about Republicans, whether it's Donald Trump's taxes, whether he's snorting cocaine. The list is long, and nobody ever calls them a name. I think from now on, if we're birthers, they should be called taxers. If they make up things about Donald's taxes, let's call them taxer conspiracy theorists.
All right, well, before we do that, let's call on our Democrat strategist, Franco Ripple. And look, Franco, you can readily understand as a public relations guy that there is a double standard. Howard Dean on the Alphabet Networks never called into account for this outrageous tweet about Donald Trump. So I guess the Clinton campaign really doesn't have to worry about it, but your reaction to what he tweeted out?
Well, I don't agree with that. I strongly doubt that Donald Trump is a user of cocaine on the campaign trail. I don't think anyone seriously believes that. And I don't think that that's what Howard Dean was necessarily trying to insinuate. He asked the question on Twitter. He posed the question. And you know what? He is a physician. And he wasn't offering as he said, he was not offering a diagnosis of any Donald Trump cocaine usage over the internet. Certainly, he's never seen him to diagnose him for that. I think he was simply saying, hey, that's something that is consistent with that usage. But let's remember, only one of these candidates has introduced health as an issue on the campaign trail, and that is Donald Trump. And as we know, Donald Trump is infamously thin-skinned. He likes to dish out the heat, but he can't take it. And when someone lobs it back his way, he goes bananas. And so we have to remember that if someone's going to make health an issue, he's got to be able to answer for it as well.
Hey, JD, I'd like to point out that I'm one of the most severe critics in the country for 8 years now of Barack Obama, and I've asked 1,000 questions, just like Franco said. It was just a question. Well, I've asked many questions about Obama's background, many questions about what he was doing at Columbia University when he's my classmate. Never saw him, never met him, never heard of him. Don't know another classmate who ever saw him or heard of him. I never said he didn't go there. I just asked a question. What did the media do? They called me a birther. It never had anything to do with his birth. They called me a racist. Never had anything to do with the color of his skin. Democrats are the ones who can't take the heat in the kitchen. They don't want one question of Hillary's health. They don't want one question about Obama's very questionable and mysterious background that has all kinds of gaps and all kinds of questions in it. So if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen.
Well,
JD,
let's move. Go ahead very quickly, Franco.
Guess what's up with Donald Trump's health? I would simply say he's probably suffering from the same thing that Hillary Clinton did, which is just just a cold or just maybe a respiratory infection or something like that. Nothing that serious, especially for someone who's 70 years old. Wayne knows he's been a national candidate. He knows the pressures that national candidates, a vice presidential candidate is under when you're on the campaign trail. It's very likely that Donald Trump was sick that night. So, cocaine is probably a stretch, but I don't know what the problem would be with him acknowledging that he was under the weather that night.
I tell you what we'll all do. Let's all acknowledge that we're not doctors and we're not going to start playing doctors on TV, okay? But I'll let you guys be debate doctors as we take a look back to Monday night. Now, I'd like to show you something that appeared on our parent website, Newsmax.com. The headline reads as follows: Major scientific polls show big Clinton win in debate. One from YouGov, one from CNN, one from Public Policy Polling. The ratio's different, but they had Hillary out front. Now, meantime, Donald Trump tweeted out all the snap polls showing him as the winner. Time, Fortune, Breitbart, Drudge. We had our own Newsmax.com poll that had him winning 83% to 11%. But look, those snap polls that are not, quote, scientific, you don't have a random sample, it measures intensity. I would imagine, Franco, you think the empirical polls are a big deal, and Wayne, you might discount them. But let me hear in your own words. Franco, first to you.
Well, yeah, I would say that the empirical, scientifically relevant, randomized data polls are probably more realistic than an online snap poll. And look, I hate to say it, but when all the ones that you just mentioned are all right-wing conservative media outlets with a very biased slant.
Well, you may not have heard Time. I don't think Time magazine is, but here's my larger point. It measures intensity. And the intensity has been there for Trump, which leads me to this kind of follow-up for you, Wayne. It seems that Donald has ushered in a new type of politics where a lot of folks say, you know what? The typical debate stuff, the snappy answers, all that doesn't really matter to us. And when you take a look at his rallies, for example, Trump shared an image of a crowd, just a huge crowd, the other night in Melbourne, Florida. But you have that. And so it seems there is great intensity. And we saw during the Republican campaign, the debate performances may not have been great, but the numbers stayed high. I guess what I'm asking in terms of this lengthy question, forgive me for the length of it, Wayne, but in this discussion, has Trump ushered in a new style of politics that is so under the radar, the empirical polling of the past doesn't necessarily matter as much as it used to?
Well, yeah, I would say yes, but I'd also say it's not a brand new style because I think Obama had this style. I think Ronald Reagan had this style. I think if you go back in history, Republicans don't have exciting, charismatic, dynamic candidates who are celebrities. The only ones we've ever had were really Ronald Reagan and now Donald Trump. Democrats have had John F. Kennedy, they've had Bill Clinton, they've had Obama. They were matinee idols. And that intensity brought out the vote. And all that really matters, all our debating, doesn't matter what Wayne Root says, what Franco says, what JD says, what matters on the morning of November 8th, who gets their people out to vote. Romney was a handsome guy and a very credible guy. I thought a great businessman, but a crap candidate. He had no excitement. He didn't get anyone jumping through walls, through brick walls to go out and vote for him. And guess what happened on the morning of the election? Nobody came out to vote for him. Very low turnout for Republican voters, very high for Obama for the second election in a row. Now we've got the guy that's going to bring people out. And by the way, I know the exact numbers, JD. Trump's team gave them to me. 13,000 were at Trump's event in Florida yesterday. 12,000 outside tried to get in. 25,000. Hillary had 1,200 in a gymnasium. Guess who's going to win the election? I think I know.
Well, and we just have a picture of that rally in Raleigh, and really only about 12,000. But Franco, you're going to get the last word. Are crowds an accurate measure of intensity? I got a feeling you might feel a little contrary to what we're saying. 20 seconds, Franco.
I do disagree with that because those numbers are not only speculative, but they could be spun any which way you like. Sure, so he has people coming out to rallies. How many of them are registered to vote? How many of them are likely voters? What kind of intensity score model are they building for them? They're not doing that because Donald Trump, as he said himself, does not believe in data. And he also doesn't believe in a ground game. So you want to talk about this rally versus Hillary Clinton's? How about right here in St. Petersburg? A couple weeks ago, the Hillary office opened up, and you could not park for blocks.
And I hear that. The ground game is something I want to take up with you at a later date. For now, we have to say thank you, Franco and Wayne, and we'll talk later. We're coming right back.